She spilled coffee. He wiped it up. And the next day, it happened again. Same words, same steps. Only he noticed. No one else did. The keeper of time loops. She spilled coffee. A thin brown stream rolled down the edge of the desk, gathering into a drop on the white plastic. Jake wiped it with a napkin before it could reach the floor. "Sorry," she said without looking. "It's fine," he replied automatically. A normal morning at the office. The standard smell of air conditioning, the background hum of the printer, someone laughing at the far end of the corridor. Jake sat at his desk in the open space. His window looked out on the parking lot, where every day at 9:20 the same car screeched to a stop at the curb. He glanced at the clock, 9:20. The car screeched to a stop. He wouldn't have paid it any mind if not for the coffee. More precisely, how she spilled it. The next day it was the same. Same cup, same trembling fingers, same drop running down the same edge, like a scene on repeat. And him, same movement, same napkin, same swipe. No words. He froze, looked at her. Same hairstyle, same phrase. "Sorry." He didn't answer. Checked the date. The calendar showed the next day. No glitch, no dream, no déjà vu. He remembered walking home that evening, checking his email, watching a show. His day had moved forward. Hers hadn't. He began to notice more. The guy from accounting argued on the phone with someone named Tony. Twice. Same words, same pauses. The woman at the coffee machine pressed the wrong button, looked surprised, pressed again, and it happened again. Not the day, the behavior. The world moved forward, but some people didn't. He didn't know how it worked. He just felt it. They were stuck, not in time, but within themselves, as if something inside was pulling them back to what hadn't yet been resolved. And the more he observed, the less he believed it was mysticism. Maybe he'd just started seeing what others didn't, the repetition behind which pain hid. Like a whisper in someone's voice that only a trained ear could catch. Like the same shadow falling over a step, again and again. Unnoticeable, almost beautiful, like music you hear in a dream and forget by morning, but the feeling remains. And then, for the first time, he gave it a name. Loop. He didn't know why he could see it, but he knew one thing. If not him, then no one. So he started watching more closely. On the third day, Jake started counting. He came in earlier than usual, made coffee without sugar. Everything felt too sweet these days, and sat at his desk without turning on the monitor. The office woke slowly, heels clicking, paper rustling, the senior analyst coughing in the next cubicle. He waited. At exactly 9:45, Susan appeared, a woman with short hair and a look like she'd been negotiating all week with someone who refused to listen. She was carrying a box. It read, "Happy birthday, Dad." On her wrist was a thin leather bracelet worn by time. She often touched it with her finger, like checking that it was still there. Once, Jake overheard her at the water cooler saying, he had one just like it, only darker. The cake was the same, with cherries and white frosting. He knew. On the fourth day, she tripped near the elevator carpet. On the fifth, mentioned the tie, as if she came in not to work, but to repay a debt no one remembered. He watched without interfering, not out of curiosity, but because of a strange feeling, like this woman was performing in a play long canceled, but she kept showing up on stage. On the sixth day, he almost looked away, but he didn't. There was something in her face, not just fatigue, but frozen time. He suddenly wondered, what if she keeps coming like this tomorrow, and the next week, and a year from now? And if no one says anything, she'll stay trapped there. He realized that silence could be a loop too, just a quiet one. Maybe all this time, he had been waiting for someone else to go first. He walked up to her. "This for him?" he asked, nodding at the box. She stopped, looked at him a long while, as if she didn't understand the question, then nodded. "He loved cherries, even when sugar was off limits." Pause. "I used to get mad that he ate them anyway. And now—" "You bring the cake every day," Jake said softly. "I see you." Susan tightened her grip on the box until her knuckles turned pale. And you, who are you? I'm just here, watching. She said nothing for a while. Her eyes held no fear, only confusion, like someone realizing they'd been walking in circles for days. She hesitated. Today I won't take it to him. I'll just leave it. In the kitchen. Jake nodded. He didn't say that he'd seen her do just that before, whispering to herself beside the trash, with the same cake. But this time, she actually left it on the counter. No words, no scene. And the next day, she came with flowers, no box. And for the first time, she looked at Jake with a faint smile. Tired, real. He understood. This was the way out. From the loop. The next time it was quieter. No box, no cake. Just a man by the window who had been showing up at the same time every day for 5 days, waiting until his phone rang. He'd pick up, say, "Yes, I'm listening," and leave without explaining. Jake saw it. He noticed how the man's hand trembled slightly each time, like he already knew what he'd hear, and still hoped it would be different. On the 6th day, Jake stood up. He approached. "Hey," he began, a little unsure. "That call, I've heard it already. 5 days in a row." The man turned around, dark circles under his eyes, a crumpled ID badge on a lanyard, worn elbows on his blazer. He looked like someone no one believed anymore. Not even himself. "What? It's just—" Jake paused. "You say the same words every time. Even the pauses are the same." The man exhaled slowly. "It's my son. I don't know where he is. Sometimes he used to call around this time. Sometimes I just thought, maybe again." He rested the phone on the windowsill as if it weighed him down. "I'm not interfering," Jake said quietly. "Just, maybe today, you could do something different. Even a little." The man stared out the window. "I don't know what." "Me neither," Jake answered honestly. "But you still come. That means something in you is still alive. Maybe not everything is lost." Silence. "I'll take the day off," the man said, quietly, almost to himself. "Okay," Jake nodded. "Just try. Not everything at once." The man didn't say thank you. He just left. No phone call, no repeat. Jake watched him go for a long time. He knew it wasn't enough. People don't break out of loops with a snap. It's not one decision. It's a crack where light begins to seep through, if they let it. And when the man's seat by the window was empty the next day, Jake believed for the first time that something had changed. He felt he could do this, not just notice, but help. He noticed it by the light. There were no windows in the server room, just a ceiling lamp, cold as medical equipment, and a screen, blue with the endless message, "Connection error. Please try again." Each morning the same person went in first, closed the door, sat on the chair, and stared at the screen. Always the same chair, slightly crooked, with a crack in the backrest. He never leaned on it, sat upright as if afraid to rest. The man, his badge said Lucas, sometimes typed something, then erased it. After 20 minutes, he left. Silent, distant. His fingers were often stained with ink, like he signed something but couldn't bring himself to deliver it. Jake waited 3 days before stepping in. The air was dry, smelling of plastic and dust from the fans. Lucas didn't even turn around. "Frozen?" Jake asked, keeping his voice calm. "No," came the short reply. "I just can't press cancel." He pointed to the screen. There was a report form. Fields filled in, the cursor blinking over the cancel submission button. "It's a letter. I meant to send it, back in autumn. Then it felt too late. But I still come. Sometimes I just sit. I don't know why." He lowered his voice. "When I'm here, it's like it's not over. Like there's still a chance." Jake stepped closer. "What if you never send it? Would anything change?" Lucas looked at him for the first time. "Who are you, anyway? A therapist?" "No." "Then what are you doing here?" "I just get stuck sometimes, too." Jake said honestly. And somehow I started noticing when others do. That's all. Lucas turned back to the screen. It's not just a letter. It's the last thing left from the version of me who could have written it. He suddenly shut off the monitor, as if angry with himself for a moment. I don't know if it's right, but today, I'll go back to my desk. I'll try. No one knows what's right, Jake shrugged. Just try something else. That's already a lot. They left together. The door closed softly behind them, and the light went out. For the first time in a long while, not because of a system error, but because someone made a choice. He heard someone laughing. That was strange. People didn't laugh much in their office. Not out of malice, it was just too even, too flat. Laughter stuck out, like a sunbeam in a windowless room. He turned. A newcomer. Claire, from communications, sitting near the coffee machine, telling something to a colleague, not loudly but sincerely. And then she looked straight at him. Every morning at the same time, with the same cup and the same look on your face, she said with a smile, like you're trying not to be late for a day you already know by heart. He froze, slowly looked at his mug, dark blue with a chipped rim. He really did drink from it every day, and his coffee, always without sugar, at 9:15, after that same car parked outside. I've been watching, she added, habit. He didn't know what to say. He was usually the one who noticed. But now someone noticed him. All day, Jake walked in a haze. Suddenly, all his actions, the route to the office, the phrases at meetings, the folder he always carried even when he didn't need it, seemed cut from a template, as if someone had built a loop and he'd stepped into it voluntarily, just to avoid the pain of change. That evening, he changed his route, walked past the abandoned lot instead of the parking lot, bought a different coffee, called his father, whom he hadn't spoken to in 3 months, just because. And the next morning, when he sat down at his desk, Claire looked at him again, but this time with a slight nod. He knew something had changed. He had stepped out. Not all the way, but he'd made a crack. And sometimes, a crack is all you need for the light to begin. He woke up before the alarm. No reason, no anxiety. Just opened his eyes and knew today wasn't like the others. He didn't turn on the news. Didn't brew his usual tea. Didn't wear the gray shirt that always hung first on the left. Everything was slightly off. And in that off, there was freshness, like the first breath after rain. At the bus stop, he took a different route. Got off 2 streets early. Stopped outside a bookstore he'd never entered. It smelled of paper, wood, and something forgotten. He ran his fingers along the spines of the books, not reading the titles. And suddenly he saw a postcard, old with yellowed edges. On it, the words, "You're still here? Then maybe it's time." He bought it, no plan, just slipped it into his pocket. The office greeted him as usual, indifferently. Same faces, same hustle. But he no longer watched people repeat themselves. He didn't look for loops. Today, he was outside of them. He walked up to Claire. "Lunch? Today, no loop." She smiled. "With pleasure." And in the evening, he went into the archive, found an old folder with photos, office parties, former employees. One had a note. "Thanks for listening. I got out back then." Jake placed the postcard in that folder. On the back he wrote, "If you're reading this, you've already started," and left. On the way home, he paused at a crosswalk. A boy passed by, laughing with his mother. A car drove by blasting music. Someone waved at him, though he didn't know who it was. And suddenly he understood. This day would never come again. Not for anyone, which meant it was real. They didn't find the postcard right away. It lay in an archive folder between yearly reports and yellowed office memos. Someone nearly threw it out, old with faded edges, but something stopped them. On the front, barely visible through the scratches, "You're still here? Then maybe it's time." And on the back, handwritten, not perfectly neat, but firm. "If you're reading this, you've already started." Nothing else. Claire found it first. She recognized the handwriting. She told no one, just gently slipped it back into place and added a slim red ribbon as a bookmark. Not for attention, for memory. Since then, people began to notice strange things around the office. One of the interns suddenly turned down a long-awaited promotion, said he was going to teach kids in another city. A girl from support started writing stories, though she'd never written before. Someone got divorced, someone reconciled, someone simply stopped wearing the same sweater every Monday. Little things. But they didn't repeat, and no one saw Jake again. Sometimes they remembered him, not as a hero, but as the one who always sat by the window, the one who disappeared one day without a word, but left behind the feeling that a thin thread followed after him, one someone else now held. In the evening, among lamps and keystrokes, in the repeated words, someone would catch a glitch, a faint crack in the music of routine. And if they lingered a bit longer near the archive, their gaze touching that shelf, they might notice. The red ribbon had shifted slightly, as if someone had opened it and didn't quite close it again. Sometimes we get stuck in the same day, in the same thought, in the words we never said, but someone might notice. A passing glance, an unexpected question, a simple postcard in an archive, and then the loop breaks, not loudly, not instantly, but for good. If you're reading this, you've already started. Now it's your turn to pay attention.